public information hotline that the town recently launched. And let's start off with, why did the town think that such a hotline needed to be launched, and what is its purpose?
Okay, as the public knows or should know, our Emergency Operation Committee meets each day, Monday through Friday. We have a team that varies from 9 upwards of 20, depending who we need to have as part of that conversation. And out of that, I want to congratulate Shanna Murphy, our emergency planner, along with Rob Franklin, who's designated in his day job. He's a manager of planning and development, but under these circumstances, he coordinates our public inquiry along with other members. And it was felt important to have an inquiry or a public information line for the town of Cobourg, where citizens could call in with any inquiry. The good news, we've trained staff so that our hope is you will get a live voice to speak with from 9 till 4 p.m., 7 days a week at this point. And our hope is that we will take your inquiry, whether it's a question recently on how do I access food, how do I get deliveries, what are the hours of the food bank. We've had questions on living accommodations, assistance, how to get to essential services, what's the information on transit or the hours of transit. So it really is, the key word is public, to give the public information to those individuals. We felt it was important to do that because we did say as council and our emergency group that we would maintain open communications to the best of our ability. I believe we're doing that. A bit disappointing, but I do want to thank the 2 callers who've called in at this point. We've had 2 as of this morning, but I'm hoping once we get the number out again, and again, I'll repeat the number for those that are listening, it's 289-677-0585. Please use the number. And we're hoping by doing that, you will not be calling Northumberland Hills Hospital when they already have high needs. And we're hoping you will not call our 911 emergency number for Cobourg Police Service, because that's meant for 911 type emergencies. I'd also like to inform the public, if you're on Cobourg website, cobourg.ca, we also have Rapid Notify, and if you wish to register your information, then anytime we have any kind of emergency, whether pandemic or flooding or else, we will notify you accordingly. And it's another way of us communicating with the citizens of Cobourg.
You say it's currently staffed during the daytime. What happens if someone calls during after hours?
Well, after hours, there is no one there at this point because we are flexing staff. We're hoping it can be somewhere between 9 and 4. If not possible, then again, if you make a call to myself as the mayor at J. Henderson at Cobourg.ca, we'll certainly take the calls as they're coming in. Any calls I receive, I take, certainly if they have merit, I take them right to the Emergency Operating Committee the very next day, or if need be, that evening, depending on the degree of importance.
With the public information hotline, John, if an answer can't be given, does the individual on the other end, on the town side, take that information and then try to find the answer the person is looking for and get back to them?
Absolutely, that's the intent. And if it's a high enough concern, of course, they have the linkage because of Mr. Franklin being on our OEOC team. It comes to Mr. Franklin, he brings it directly to our command meeting each and every morning.
How long's the number been in place? How many calls have you received, and with the information hotline, and what are the things people are looking for currently?
Well, again, right now, as I reiterated, it started, I believe, this past Saturday. So it's been in for a very short time. To date, we've had 2 confirmed calls that we've addressed. We're hoping for more, but two. We'll give credit for those two who have used the number. And at this point, as I indicated, it is public, so we will address any inquiry that can be answered. And if they can't answer it, they'll find a resource. If the resource is not us, perhaps um, it could be Greenwood Coalition, it could be Salvation Army, it could be Northumberland Hills Hospital, it could be certain agencies. So we will do our best to find the right resource to get them the answer.
Obviously, with a phone number being out there in public, someone from outside of the town limits might see it and call in. What happens in those instances, or have you put something in place for someone that calls that is not a Cobourg resident?
Well, to me, if anybody can call number from wherever, this is for Cobourg citizens, but someone outside who perhaps works in Cobourg, lives in Northumberland, wishes to use the number, I would hope their call would be received and answer given accordingly.
Thank you. Let's switch gears a little bit to the changes now to conventional wheel transit, and let's just walk us through first the changes that were made to the conventional transit system.
Well, initially back in a few months ago, as you know, we extended hours through budget. We provided additional dollars to extend the hours. What we've done now through council is bring the conventional back to more of a standard number of hours, really based on ridership. As we do the metrics and they're monitored by Public Works Director Wills, we're finding our conventional numbers are down approximately 50% at this point, which is good news, which means people are listening to the message of stay home, stay safe, and respecting social distancing and going out only when they need to. So that's very promising. There was a recommendation this past Monday night in council to reduce the hours for Wills Transit, which council did not agree to at this point. And the reason being because we know we have fewer members using Wills Transit, but it's critically important for their access and their destinations. And as we know, the province has indicated that transit is deemed to be an essential service.
John, with conventional transit, you're limiting it to 8 people maximum per bus. Passengers must obviously sit the standard 2 meters away, and riders must get off within that 1 hour of, and it can't be the same location where you get on. How will the town, I guess, force these new recommendations that they put forward?
Well, again, to date, without naming details, we've only had 1 or 2 individuals who've taken liberty with what we're asking. If that happens, we have access through the driver to contact our bylaw officer who will intervene. And the good news, if the bylaw officer cannot educate, would be our word, then we have access to Cobourg Police Service who can officially lay a charge, as you know, under the Health Act, because the Health Act under the Quarantine Act, which is effective from the federal government, states that all individuals, whether you ride transit or not, have to abide by social distancing rules of 2 meters. As you know or may have heard in the last regulation that came down last night, the new social distancing for groupings has now gone from 50 down to 5. I want to be clear on this. This is for social gatherings. However, essential services, it's my understanding, they're still operating at the 50 number. So for example, pharmacies and grocery stores typically can operate at the 50. However, as you announced, our transit is limited to 8, less so on our Wills bus because it's a smaller vehicle. And in general, the new order that came down last night is that you cannot be in any social groupings greater than 5, unless your own family members are greater than 5. That is exempted. Funeral homes, I believe, have been granted up to 10. So you can see how this is playing out. So the new rule on the market is If, for example, let's say I have 5 members in my family, and let's pretend for a moment we're all in the same household. That is allowed. But however, if I invite my relatives over to my home and I exceed that because we're having Easter dinner and someone lays a complaint and I'm found to be in excess of 5 members, then you might say, well, can you be charged under the act? And the answer is yes, you can. And as you're learning from listening to the radio and social media, some of these fines are significant. For individual members, they start at a minimum of $750, and I believe they go up to $100,000. So the province is not playing around with the province of Ontario or the rest of Canada. They're serious about demanding through the act that people behave responsibly.
What measures have been put in place to protect the drivers on the conventional buses, John?
Well, I think one of the greatest is the fact that, first of all, we have no fares in the interim. The transit is free, so there's no handling of resources, money, tickets, passes. That's huge for a driver. Secondly, we're asking all passengers to load in from the back end. And with social distancing, we hopefully appreciate that will enable our drivers to remain safe. If they have personal concerns, they are to bring those concerns to Colleen McBride, who is our human resource person.
With these measures put in place, the limiting of passengers with no fares currently, is this something that would be sustainable for Cobourg to operate over a long term if this continues on for the next 2 or 3 months?
Well, we're going to remain hopeful because it is, as I stated from the province, and we also agree it's an essential service for many who do not have other access to their own vehicle or other means. Like any good service, as a town, we're going to have to measure through Lori Wills, who's our Director of Public Works, where we are in the different metrics, what those metrics look like, and then make decisions accordingly. I expect if Lori Wills expects a change, then we will certainly monitor those, and those reports can be brought before council to ask for those amendments. Again, council would have to agree and change of hours and would have to go through council. And as the public knows, because we're allowed to have virtual council meetings under Bill 187, in fact, as I mentioned earlier, I think we're one of the first in the province to have it the previous Monday. We are prepared to continue our ongoing council meetings. In fact, we have one this Monday, which will be done virtually as well.
With the press release coming out from the town on March 31st, can you walk us just through the changes to the wheel transit system as well?
Well, wheel transit is operating very much the same way. As I mentioned, there is no fee, limiting contact with the driver, respecting social distancing, and therefore we have to limit the number that can ride our wheels bus because it's a much smaller bus. So it's really following very similarly to the conditions of our conventional transit. We will monitor carefully the hours. We'll see what we do with the hours later on based on actual numbers and service.